For my movie presentation, I watched Bill W. Bill W. is the story of William G. Wilson, co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, directed and produced by Kevin Hanlon. It is a biography following the life of Bill as he became an alcoholic, recovered, and went on to found Alcoholics Anonymous, and the struggles he ended up having with this organization. It's filmed in basically a documentary, and it includes audio recordings of Bill himself and co-founder Dr. Bob Smith, and as well as interviews with his wife and other members of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, it's really interesting because these members, to protect their anonymity, are shown in shadows during the entire time. So, the story follows Bill. He was born in 1895, married Louis Burnham, and joined the military without ever having a sip of alcohol. But once in the military, he succumbed to peer pressure and drink, and immediately became addicted. His frequent drunkenness made it impossible for him to form lasting business relations, and it damaged his relationship with his wife Lois as well. He fully realized this was a problem, and he tried many methods to rid himself of his drunkenness, but none of them worked long term. He would be able to stop for a short time, but quickly regressed back into alcoholism. One day, he was lying in bed, depressed over the hopelessness of his life, and he cried out to God to show himself. He then had a sense of a bright light, and the feeling of serenity passed over him, and he never drank again. He desperately wanted to help other alcoholics get and stay sober, and soon ended up in contact with Dr. Bob Smith. After sharing his story with him, Dr. Smith agreed to help Wilson, and before long, Alcoholics Anonymous was founded by these two people. And there are intentionally few guidelines for the meetings, but Wilson made a list of both 12 steps for alcoholics wishing to recover and 12 traditions meetings are supposed to follow. And some of these highlights for the 12 steps for the alcoholics include: we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable, that they had made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him, that they made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all, and lastly, that having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to all alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. The 12 traditions for the meetings themselves include: 1. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. Secondly, that the only requirement for Alcoholics Anonymous membership is a desire to stop drinking, that a group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers, and that anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. All these focus on trusting God to keep us out of alcoholism, not identifying what the cause is. We talk a lot about whether it's the cognitive branch or the psychosocial or psychosexual branch of psychology, but Wilson intentionally wanted to avoid this. He spent much of his time while struggling with alcoholism trying to figure out what the issue is, as if knowing what caused it would help him. But it didn't. Knowing what caused him to drink did not stop him from drinking. Only turning to God ultimately helped him. But having set up Alcoholics Anonymous was not the end of Wilson's issues, and instead it caused some of his own. As I mentioned, anonymity was an important part, as it is in the name. But Wilson, being the co-founder, found himself frequently recognized, and he was quite unhappy with this. As a result, it led him to leave the organization and give control to a board of trustees in 1955. From here, he was able to live peacefully with his life until his death in 1971. Ultimately, Bill W. is a moving story about how a man searched everywhere for a solution to his problems, but none of them worked, until he turned to God. I would recommend it if you're a fan of documentaries, because when I came into this, I was expecting it to be more like a reenactment of his life, but instead it was much more focused on the interviews, which, while still quite good, is not exactly what I expected. But overall, it's a great personal tale of a man and how he trusted God instead of himself to find an answer to his problems.